All right. Happy to see you all. Let's get started with Milan. I saw, by the way, just so you know, a ton of people reached out to me on the community, private chats, and YouTube. There is this gentleman. He's actually a really nice guy. He owns a library. I just can't remember off the top, which library he owns, but he's a very prominent guy in the open source community, and he actually puts in a lot of time and effort into what he's doing. And from our last SQL release, he basically shared some really interesting insight. Let's see here. So this is. Hold on, I'll find the comment for you real quick. Hold on here. So we have our videos, and here's our live streams, and I think it was either in this SQL session. Yeah, I think it's this guy. You can use Microsoft package for validating script, but there was also another one for SQL where, let's see here, AI processing. I just try to, what I'm trying to do to bring you as much possible. Yeah, it is this guy. It is this guy right here, right? And he has a lot of contribution in the open source community, and I think he built something similar in the past. Again, I would recommend using T-SQL parser. Also, I know that I'll find he basically stormed the channel with comments. I just can't find it
Mhm.
right now. Um, one of the things that a lot of people have told me is that there's an out of the box Microsoft library that you can be using, to kind of scan, all of these, for tokens and stuff like that.
Mhm.
It could even tell you like whether it's a select statement or partial select and all that kind of good stuff. I don't know. What did you end up doing? I don't know. And I'm actually really curious because it's an interesting endeavor where you're going. By the way, just for a lot of
Mhm.
people to know, the actual system that we're trying to build is technically already done. We're going that extra mile to make sure we validate, we do our due diligence, and that tiny trip that we're taking here is really what distinguishes software that you can trust from software that's just kind of baked up super fast and rolled out there for anybody to deal with the bugs. So anyway, stop. Enough talking about this. It's Milan. It's your. I'm gonna give you the form here. Tell me what happened with you.
I mean, what I basically did, I went library by library, all the NuGet packages that are available there, but are kind of popular.
Uh-huh.
Did some tests on all of them with some test data, and after all, they all had some things that I didn't like, or they don't support either validation. Maybe they do
Mhm.
tokenization. You have the tokens, but they don't do validation,
Uh-huh.
or they do validation, but not really in a. It's not really like correct validation. I mean, the outputs are not what we expect. So,
Okay. Okay.
or there is a library that we picked last time, and that one is built on .NET framework, the old one. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, and it's not
Not not
maintained
not not
anymore,
net
and these
core.
things. So,
Hmm.
and after all, I decided that it makes sense that we take the one from Tim. I think Tim was his name. He just suggested something in the channel. I think it's the same guy that you just showed me comment on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, let me check out our channel real quick. Yeah, I know a lot of people kept kind of. Are you talking about? Yeah, Tim. Is this our Tim? Because we have multiple Tims. Just so you know, we have a Tim from Germany. That Tim is the one that basically uh, is technically the administrator of of our channel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I heard. Yeah, that's the one that I was looking for actually. Hold on, let me share my screen here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
That's the one I was looking for. So this dude right here, Jodin Dahl or Yodin Dahl. I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. This dude actually is a big follower of our community, and he participates in a lot. Like he had a lot of input while we were building the OpenAI library, which is really amazing just to see all these people come together. But also additionally, one second here, I'll go back with the camera. But additionally, he always is interested into participating in our project, but as like a senior consultant. He wants to basically look at what we're doing, see where we're blocked, and then unblock us. Right? He doesn't want to do the daily, but he wants to be part of like kind of building unblocking people, which is a great. He's a tech lead, he may as well. So
Mhm.
which one of these is the one that worked for you? The GraphQL SQL or SQL Validator example? That's probably his own
So
code.
it's
Go
that
ahead.
that first one, yeah. I mean, I can share.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Think yeah, okay.
Here you are.
No, not this.
Yes.
um,
Okay. I see dynamic parser and all that. Okay.
okay, now you should see. I mean, that's what I basically did. I went one
Oh
by one
wow,
all
you really
the
did
this
like okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
to see
Nice.
how they
Nice.
behave on different test data and how they validate. And this is
Uh-huh.
the one that he uses. So this is basically the solution that Tim, or I don't know, I think his name on
Yeah,
Discord is
Jodenhall.
Tim.
Jodenhall or Jodenhall. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So what he's basically using this script DOM. That's the Microsoft library that people are suggesting. That he's suggesting it's basically taking your SQL and making out of that like an abstract syntax tree, and then going to
Mm-hmm.
the nodes and doing some kind of tokenization, assertion, these things.
Yep.
So what he does here, uh, s- yeah, so what he does here, he initiates, instantiates the parser, and then this is like a node. It goes through the. This is the SQL, the query that we're gonna send.
Mm-hmm.
Is it zoomed enough, or I need to
Yeah,
zoom a
you're
bit
gonna need to
more?
zoom
No.
a little
Okay.
bit. Always stay with the stream, stay at 175 or 150. Either one of these is
Mm-hmm.
fine. Okay. So, okay, yeah, that's perfect. There you go.
Okay. So basically takes this query, the SQL statement, and goes so does this parsing, right, into some kind of fragment, which is node.
Wait, did
That's
he
like
write this specifically for us? How old is this code?
yeah, he just wrote this. I
Oh
mean,
my
he
God.
used this library and then he went through
Nice.
through
Nice.
the SQL, did the parsing, and then tried to parse that into a select statement. If that's not
Yep.
select a statement, then it's invalid.
Yep.
He also did tests, right? So if I go here,
This is freaking amazing.
uh,
Just, yeah, that's Yoden Hall. That's right.
so we have these tests. So he basically took all the examples that we have been mostly using
Yep.
with, and
Yeah.
then he's basically trying to prove that this makes sense, this works. So
Okay.
yeah, kind of it's validated. So now if we are if we want to incorporate this into our code, we also need to think about the way we do that. So it's not just a library that we use and we just use the parse, but we also have some kind of logic if we go back here to the validator part. So here there is some kind of logic going on here.
Yeah, this has to go into some service, right? So
Yeah.
remember how I told you if you're gonna rely on an external library, I could argue that it's a utility, but since it's kind of engaged heavily in the business logic, you're gonna have to put it in its own foundation service. And then this foundation service responsibility would be foundation services can play with external models. Someone was just asking me that question the other day. What's the difference between you mapping models and localizing models versus DTOs, right? And I said to them, if the model that the broker is handing you is already localized, your foundation service doesn't have to do anything. But in this particular case, yeah, this T-SQL 100 parser, whatever is going on in there, that's what we call, and I'm assuming this is coming from the library, Milan, right? Is that what it
Yeah,
is?
this is the library. Yeah.
Yeah. So that what we would call an external model, and your foundation service could still play with that. However, it would it would need to map it externally into something localized, which is okay. We already talked about this idea of having a particular um, foundation service just for SQL validation and parsing.
hmm But if we keep the same service, I mean, if we go back to the code, then we have, let's go here. Then we have this data query service, right? That's the one
Mm-hmm.
that we are talking about.
Yep.
Basically deals with other kinds of models. So we would have to do other foundation service, and then we would need broker other foundation service, other processing service, and then somehow, right?
Yep.
Mix.
So your architecture, if I may take your screen here for
It
a
takes,
second,
yeah.
your architecture would basically, and I think I have this thing that you and I talked about the other day. Give me a second here. I think it's still sitting somewhere around one sec. Just too many drawings. I'm trying to find the one. It's okay. We can pick it up again. So um, let's see here. Just bear with me. I'm just spinning up a new draw IO.
Hmm.
There's some company called Lucid, and this company, I've seen a lot of people do that. Let me just show people this. You guys know that I like to use Draw.io a lot because it just works, right? So this company, Lucid, basically went and said, this is not sponsored by Lucid in any way, shape, or form. I don't take sponsorships, but Lucid is a Draw.io collaborative. So you basically, it's called Lucid Chart. That's right, Lucid Chart, right? And what they basically do is that they can allow all of us to basically work on the same diagram at the same time. Because Draw.io is open source. Like Draw.io itself is open source. So some people basically added the cloud support and infrastructure so teams could kind of share this. So I'm gonna try this with us. I'm gonna kind of, create an account, and see us kind of using this tool. If it
Hmm.
works, it works. If it doesn't, then throw it away. We don't care, right? And it will be the worst the worst advertisement for the product ever. But we no not holding any punches. But anyway, just for the time being, I guess in your case here, you would have actually three things and three things and three things, right? So you basically have this parser broker. So that's your SQL parser broker, I'm assuming. And you will have your SQL data broker or data broker. And then you have your query broker, I think,
Hmm.
right? And then you go upstream like that. But that kind of puts us in an interesting position because, now you want to honor the 2-3 rule, right? So this is SQL service, sorry, SQL parser service. This is data service, and then this is query service. And if I may just take a second from everyone's time and just go in here, say SQL query processing service, and this is data processing service like this, and then you have your parser, SQL parser processing service, and then on top of all this, you're throwing your orchestration. This is just for the people who are seeing this for the first time. There's a lot of rules going on in there. Uh, please watch the standard series to understand why we're doing our structure this way. But in here it would be like SQL orchestration service basically, and that's the guy that's
Mm.
serving everything. But now we're in an interesting situation because we have our our AI broker, OpenAI broker, right? And then we have our um, um, uh, what did we call it? AI service, and then we have AI processing service, right? So let me show you how the standard architecture makes you rethink things, how we think about things and all that. You're gonna love this one. So in the standard, you can't have an orchestration service sitting up here. It's gonna have to orchestrate something. So it can't be a single processing service that you're working with, right? So we already have that part. And in the standard, you can't have an orchestration service orchestrating more than three or less than two. It's called the 2-3 rule. It's meant to be there to control engineers from creating a dumpster fire. Really, that's the anti-dumpster fire approach. Because once you tell engineers this is okay, there will be another one that will come and say, oh, let's add this one too. And then let's add this one too, and so on and so forth. And that's, my friend, how dumpster fires are created. So let me just see here in the group if people kind of have ideas. I have one nice idea. It really makes you rethink your architecture and domain. Let's just try with Kailu. Kailu, what do you think? How do we solve this problem? Do you have ideas?
You create another orchestration service that that will group together with either one of those.
Yep. So that's exactly it. So I know that two of these things can be reads and two others can be write. Like at the end of the day, if I call this SQL generation service, processing service, it will be true because you're calling AI to generate SQL statements, right? That's really the whole purpose of it, right? So so if we kind of break our structure in this manner and we basically go and say let's look at this from a domain standpoint, right? So this data here, Milan, was supposed to do what? This is the one that gives you information about
Yeah.
your data, right? So
Yeah.
what we can do is that these two belong together.
Mm.
See how the standard kind of shapes. It makes you think about these things, and it forces that logic into the architecture. So now you have SQL query orchestration service, and you have in here SQL generation orchestration service, which means you get to have a coordination service sitting on top here to see how we're thinking about this. This is a great example of solving real world problem, right? So that's SQL natural SQL coordination service. And then you have like a client or whatever exposure layer you want to put up there, which doesn't really matter. I'll just say client for now because I don't want us to spend too much time on it. See, so that would break this like that. So the request would come in here. You would go and pull in the information about your database, and then you send
Mm-hmm.
it over to AI, and then you get the SQL. You go validate the SQL first. So that's the parser, right? That this is actually wrong. This should go
Mm-hmm.
up first. So the chronological order here is really, really important to explain an idea. So yeah, so even this one is wrong. This should go up here and this should go down here. By the way, when people see you like anywhere, wherever you go, when people see you put that time and effort into the little details like this, they will respect you more. They will like you more. They'll be like, this guy actually gives a crap about what they're doing, right? Even in these little things, like if the thing is going like this, I got the data and then I go and generate SQL and then I go back here. Watch how I light these up as they go. So it's like I'm going like this. So that's that part. So now I got the information about the database query. Now I'm gonna go hit AI to get the query, and then I'm gonna go hit up here to validate this. And once it's valid and I know it's not gonna damage the database, now I go see the chronological order
Mm-hmm.
as it's going like this, and then it goes all the way up to the top. That's what I call proper engineering. What do you think,
Quick
Omar?
question, Hassan.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I was when I was reading the
The
standard
standard?
before, yeah,
Hmm.
the the SQL parser broker, as you mentioned before, it's like a utility broker, like the logger broker, right?
Hmm.
Why can't we
No,
just use?
no, it's not. See, that's the problem. It's not.
Not anymore.
It's not for two reasons. Number one, it will require business logic. Where are you going to put that? Like if you go back to what Milan was just talking about, the example that Hall shared with us has a lot of logic in it. So that's one.
Hmm.
Where are you going to put that logic? In the broker?
Okay, yeah, I wasn't actually. I had to step out, so yeah, I didn't. I
No
missed
worries.
that part. Yeah.
No worries. I gotcha. So there's that one. And then there's the other part is in all honesty, I didn't feel good about calling it a utility broker because a logging broker, if you drop it from your application, your critical path is still working. I mean, it's crappy engineering, but your critical path, like your users have no
Mm.
impact. But if you drop that guy from your application, that's how you actually distinguish between a utility and a domain broker. A utility broker is supposed to do support for you. It's just support, right?
But
But someone could also argue for the date time the same thing. So
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to ask. Like daytime, yeah.
I like I said, I could argue both ways. There could be two Hassans in here and they could fight each other like one of these. It's like a podcast for 300 years, like how these Greeks used to argue in the olden times. You know, two guys meet each other, be like, "Hey, I have a question for you. What is truth?" We're like, "Wow, you're blowing my mind right now. I was just gonna ask you about what is honesty," and they just keep arguing with each other for 300 years. That's pretty much, you know, that was the philosophers. It's like a 300-year podcast that never ends. So, so who were we? Who were they? The Greeks? The Greeks.
The Greeks.
Who,
Yeah.
yeah, they love to argue for days and days and days and days. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is, I could also argue that, well, yeah, the daytime broker could also, not having a daytime broker could do just as much damage because someone can play with data and make you think that a record was created in the year 2055, which is a big insult to your system. But anyway, that's how I would structure it. Like given that business logic, at least the daytime broker argument doesn't stand when we say this SQL parser requires some business logic. It's not just the it's not just the APIs. So I think we won this argument, at least a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with the structure. It looks reasonable. So
So just for the two of you, because you guys just started this project with me. So what Kailo and I have been doing is literally talk about the standard and solve problems according to the standard in the last about 10 years, right? So if you continue to solve problems with a thing like this, with some set of rules, and you're open to changing these rules as you go, it's crazy how your skill sets are gonna increase. Like you will at some point in time, and Kailu could tell you about this, you could be talking to people that have been doing this for 25 years and you feel like you're talking to an entry level engineer because you're actively investing and thinking about engineering problems every day versus just going to work, fixing the bug, going home, and never doing any engineering. You see here the advantage, the gap starts to get bigger and bigger. Kailu, sometimes we felt like we speaking different languages to people. Do you remember this? Like we would tell people about coordinations and orchestrations, and people have no idea. No input validation, no dependency, nothing. Do you remember that stuff?
No, it's pretty much one service with everything.
Have you ever seen this, Falad? Have you ever seen people put everything in one file? And the file, I swear to God, I saw 25,000 lines of code service. And I kept asking people, I said, why are you doing this? And people would say to me, oh, we inherited it this way. And we're now just adding, we're piling up on top of, I said, why don't you do the turning point? A lot of engineers, you will hear a lot of engineers do this. They'll be like, well, we found it this way, so we're just keeping up. My
But we
man,
say it
do the
works.
shift. And then you have the folks that say if it works, don't fix it. You know what we call this? We call this chaos language. Every time you're gonna hear someone says, if it works, don't fix it, know for a fact that they're trying to reason for a horrible, horrible system that is full of bugs and they don't want you to improve it. That's what we call chaos language, right? Also, the folks that would come in and tell you things like, well, the team has made the decision. It doesn't make sense to argue it. I mean, how are we supposed to grow as an engineering team? It kind of wails on your psychological and mental health very heavily that you have to deal with that every day, right? Not that these are things that we've ever seen. They're all hypothetical situations. This is not real stuff, Kailu, right? This is just huh? So anyway, so listen, this is the architecture, right? And someone also reached out to me and told me that even though I feel bad that I don't save the architecture, it serves us all well for people who are seeing a stream for the first time to kind of see it be built again from scratch over and over and over again, so they see where things are going, and it helps us kind of rethink our assumptions, re-examine our assumptions.
Mhm.
So Milan, is this the direction you want to take then with the parser? So
Yeah, my
let me
part is kind of exploding all the time. Like,
y- y- just so you understand, you are more than welcome to join some of these streams, and we will help you build your branch. Like, you don't have to do this on your own. There is absolutely no expectation here that you come in one day and be like, oh, it's all good and done, let's go. It's not. I don't expect you to do that. In fact, if you join some of these streams when your time allows, if you join some of these streams and actually build it with us in a pair programming manner, you will feel completely different. You'll feel like you don't have to do all this work on your own. People are learning from your style, and we get to share a little laugh and talk about things. These are literally like in real life and at work. This is how I pair program. That's every day. If you're working with me on daily basis, that's every day, except that's for 8 hours instead of just 1 hour every night. So so some people kind of start to be like, stay away from me. We talk way too much. I need to talk to my wife at some point in time. so so it gets weird. So anyway,
yeah,
uh,
I'm quite open for that as well. I would have one more question on the validation part. So in most of these things, we need to generate kind of SQL statement, right? If we talk about validation, so if we talk about uh, query execution part or SQL parser service anywhere, we are supposed to generate SQL statement, put that kind of as an input to the test, and then test would need to do something. We would need to generate both valid SQL statement and invalid. So that's where I'm also not quite sure now, because before.
actually, you're in
Mhm.
luck. You don't have to worry about that because you're gonna hide that behind a broker. So we don't test an external resource. We put it behind a broker and mock the response.
Mhm.
Even if you pass the exact same statement, unless there is something in your business logic that mandates that you test, both scenarios. Hey Saddam, how are you? Dinesh here says, "Hi Hassan, I'm being moved to bug fixing in one of our leave this company immediately." That's my advice to you, man. Now I'm curious about my skills. Can I grow individually? Well, if you join some of these sessions, you may, but I really highly recommend that. Okay, just on this question, and I know, sorry, Milan, I'm kind of diverging here, but I need to answer this. Just so you guys know, and I see a lot of engineers get stuck. I was just explaining this. Kailu, was it you that the one that I was explaining, the janitors, workers, and thinkers, or was this someone else? I think that was someone else. Look, in the tech industry, there are three levels of engineers. Hear me out. This is really important. Just to address the next question. There are janitors, there are workers, grunt workers, and there are thinkers. And the pay of these people also varies exactly in that order. Let me just tell you what happens. In any company, people come up with a great idea for a great product. The idea comes from these thinkers. These thinkers usually have some really big ass title, like a principal, a partner, whatever you call it, right? So that's an idea. And then this idea happens to land on a bunch of really, really smart people that want to turn things into reality super fast. So they go, if they're not following a standard, they create a system. So the idea turns into a system, but the system is a piece of crap because it's not standardized. Do you know who actually cleans up all this? People that come after all said and done and everyone got their promotions and rewards. They bring in these guys. And these janitors, what they literally do is that they fix bugs for years and years and years and continue to be paid and rewarded the least because in the business eyes, these people are doing what is supposed to have been working in the first place. I won't say more about this. I'll just let everyone watching this and seeing this diagram decide for themselves where they stand. If you have been here, if you just graduated college and you're doing this, maybe okay for a year or two. If you have been in the tech industry for 10 years and you're still a janitor, you're going in the wrong direction. I don't care if you work at NASA. You're doing the wrong thing. You're absolutely going in the wrong. You're not growing. You think you are, we're growing, but you're not. You could have a fancy title and you're big in a big title, work in a big title company, but you're a janitor. You're just cleaning someone else's crap. If you're 5 years in and you're here, yeah, that's okay. If you're like 15 years in and you're still a worker, you don't actually design and come up with ideas, you're in the wrong direction. Now here's the little surprise. If you've been around for 10 years, yeah, and you're a thinker in some company, yeah, that's great. I appreciate you for that. 15 years and you're still doing that, you're going in the wrong direction. You should own your own business by now and own your own money, because this thinking that you're doing, you're taking $3, someone else is taking $50. So 50 times as much as you. Okay? Dinesh, do you get it? I just summarized 25 years of being beat up in the tech industry for you. You're welcome. Now enough of this crap. Let's go back to Milan. What was your question? So what you can do, Milan, what you can do is I could have our week basically like 4 days. Every other day is either you or Kailu and Omar, and they're gonna help us. Like they're gonna be with us. So we're building a little bit here, and then we're building a little bit here. I feel like we're getting to a closing end for the AI processing service, right, Omar? Like once we pass this validation, nested validation piece.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're all gonna be joining you to build these data services with you. How do you feel
Okay.
about that?
Yeah, I can
Only if you're
build.
comfortable with it. I want to
Yeah,
respect
yeah, of course
your
I am.
style.
No, it's not. It's not about the style. It's mostly about the time zone, and I'm also working at the time where we have these streams. I mean, I have flexible working time, so that's my lunch break usually. Uh, or I have a meeting, so I cannot join.
Yeah.
I would like to join. I mean, I'll try to join as more sessions as possible in the future. Yeah, I can build some kind of a base, and then we can see. Maybe I can join some of the sessions, and we can continue working on that. From what we talked about today.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mhm.
Sounds good.
But can we get back to the validation part just
Yeah.
for me to understand what
Yeah.
you
Let's
meant
go.
with the broker thing?
Yeah. Let's go back here. Go ahead.
Okay, so we are talking about let's talk about this query service. That's the service that suppose query processing or foundation. So we get a query there, right?
Yeah.
And
This.
we
Yeah.
need.
This.
Mhm,
So let me kind of add a little bit more details here, right?
mhm,
So this guy here, this area here, its main responsibility is to execute SQL query and return results. So far, so good, right? What about this SQL parser processing service? This guy here, that guy's main response. Let me clean things up for you just a little bit. That guy main responsibility, just a second here,
mhm,
is to basically validate SQL queries from any damaging clauses, like code that will damage. This one up here, the data processing up here, right? This one here will retrieve all schema, all details, schema of the given database, right? This guy right here is generate query based on schema and natural query. So it goes literally in that particular order. You're basically saying, I want to I want to get all the details about my database. I'm going to give this to AI with a natural query. It's going to give me a SQL query. I'm going to go run the parser to see if this SQL query is destructive. We really just want to say, you're either going to say good, you're not going to respond with anything. It's a void validate query. That's it. Void validate. That's your API. And if it passes, If it passes and doesn't throw an exception, then you're good to go. If it doesn't, then you throw an exception and you basically say invalid or destructive SQL query exception. And this service, this orchestration service here will handle that. So the query is technically validated before it lands on your query processing service, because this is the one that's doing that. Your query processing service will just structurally validate. It will just go and say, structurally, this seems like a query that I can run. That's it.
By structure, you mean like null or empty or
Null,
some?
empty, or white space, and it contains
Hmm.
something like select at the beginning, and that's it. Select and
Hmm.
from and some like really basic validations, because there's a whole new responsibility in here on this one to kind of handle that for you.
Hmm. But okay, now I have two more questions.
Hmm. Hmm.
So this SQL parser service, that's the one that's gonna do some kind of logic, right? SQL
Yes.
parser service.
Yep.
So there we would again need to feed some valid or invalid SQL query statement.
Right. I mean, remember, you have your broker sitting in here to
Hmm.
tell you whether this is a select or not select. Okay, so the library that you're calling will tell
But
you
it's not
whether
a library, right? It's our code. Library just one piece of that puzzle, and then we are using that puzzle to find out whether that's select or not. That
uh,
that part of
no,
the
I
code where.
understand. I
Mhm.
understand. What does the library do? It tells you whether this is a select statement or not, right?
Um,
It gives you a response and tells you what type of query this is, right? Like go back to Yoden Hall, share your screen,
uh-huh.
go back to Yoden Hall.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it gives tokens back, and we can check these tokens, I think.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then based on these tokens, we determine whether this is valid or invalid, right? That's why you're gonna mock. You're gonna just mock the response. You won't have to do anything.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
It's this part of the code. So I suppose that this part of the code is gonna be
In the
in
service.
our foundation service, right?
Yes, yes. But look at the part where it says select statement is null or select into is not null.
And this as well.
Yeah. That part, whatever that library, so the library is giving you back this token statements. That's what we're gonna mock. Sorry,
Um.
script.batches.
Uh-huh.
But then my question for you is, how did you feed that? Where did you pass in the SQL statement? Oh, it's up there.
Line 14.
Parser.parse.
Yeah.
Yeah, line 14.
Yeah.
So basically your library will be basically that call. Do you see that call parser.parse? You're
Uh-huh.
initializing T-SQL 100 parser with the fragment and all that, and you're basically returning that fragment. And that fragment is what your foundation service is going to pick up. And that fragment is what we're going to mock. So we're testing based on the content of that fragment whether to throw an exception or not. It's going to be the easiest thing in the world. Way easier than
Mhm.
this whole regex war that you've been fighting for, like, which is amazing. I learned a lot. I hope you did. Do you know what's the most interesting thing I learned from this whole endeavor? This regex random generator. I'm gonna use this for days, dude. You know, I can use this, dude. Do you know I everything I do, I need end-to-end testing for it. I can use this regex to generate content for me that fit. Do you know that there's a guy that wrote a regex that generates Shakespeare? Just one regex line. You hit it, right? And you iterate on it, and it generated an entire novel for Shakespeare. I need to find that. It's like from 12, 13 years ago, when people were still cool and they didn't work just for money. They actually loved engineering. So, so right now it's hard to tell, right? It's hard to tell. You don't know if it, like I know everyone on this call and everyone watching this stream actually loves what they're doing. But I'm talking about the folks that will just go do the bare minimum to get paid and they call themselves engineers. That's not how this craft works. It's very different. But some of them just don't know what to do. They want to learn, but they just don't know what to do. So
It's interesting here, like the error list, the errors that can be returned. We talked once about like how SQL has so many errors. Does it?
41,000.
Yeah. Like, is it like this library like will document it to show us like what kind of errors are returned so that we can validate properly? It's kind of a question we don't know the answer yet. So just
Yep, that's Milan. He's
Yeah.
leading that part.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, when I tell people you're leading something, that means, oh, you're the one to blame. I don't know. I might even ask someone like who would do this for us? There is a guy in our group. He doesn't talk much, but his name is Michael. I could ask him to try to break our library. He loves to break stuff. He's not a QA person. He's just a really, really smart guy that likes to break stuff. Every time I build a library, be like, haha, look at this, it's broken. So and then I just go fix it. You know, he doesn't care. He's just like Kailu. He doesn't care about, oh, look at me, I'm building things and I'm online and I contribute to open source, but he's definitely interesting. So when you build the service, I'll just tell him, hey, my main man, break it, see what you can do with it. I'm pretty sure he's gonna come up with something. You know who else would do this? This guy that comments on our stream every now and then. What's his name? Ronald. Ronald could probably break this. That kind of brain. These engineers are, endangered species. You don't see them around anymore. Yeah, you don't find any engineers like that anymore. I asked a guy this the other day. I said to him, "So what do you like about engineering?" He said, "I just know JavaScript. I'm a JavaScript guy. Not even an engineer. I just know JavaScript." I was like, "Wow, that's it. That's it right there." But then again, the guy makes $300 an hour from Walt Disney, so he's all right. What do you think about that, Omar?
Yeah.
If he called himself Walt Disney engineer, I would still respect that. Anyway, so Milan, this is basically the trick. You see that part where you initialize T-SQL parser and you do
Mhm.
parser.parse with whatever is being passed in there. That, my dear friend, is going to be the API that you hide behind a broker. And then let's see someone from the standard community come in and say, well, your broker is not supposed to be doing sequencing. It's going to be an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
I'm excited. By the way, you know that you can do, instead of out errors, you can do underscore. That basically means I don't care. But we do
Mhm.
care. That's the thing. We do care. So
How is he using this here? Uh-huh, okay.
this is how he tells this is just an invalid query.
Okay, yeah.
For
Good.
the for the orchestration services, because I'm still waiting actually to build one with you here to learn.
Oh, you're gonna
Like
love it. You're
the
gonna love
kind
it.
of validation is should be very high level, right? Especially we did all the validation
Yeah,
downstairs.
very, very high. That's the beauty about orchestration service. Think about
Yeah.
it like managers. They don't do a lot of work. They just tell people what to do, and then they get all the credit. So that's pretty much what orchestration services do. They connect the dots. They do something much more important than doing the actual, like they're not focused on one particular domain. They're aggregators. By the way, Gregory says T-SQL fragmentor will return parse errors. Okay, T-SQL 100 is Microsoft SQL version 10. Current is T-SQL 150 for Microsoft SQL version 15. Oh, this is another problem. How do we tell, how do you tell which version of SQL are we using? Although that I'm assuming Gregory, it doesn't matter because a lot of these just cover the very small changes that are 1 in a million years that are a change between SQL 10 and SQL 13 and SQL 15. But if we really want to go up and beyond, which is what this is all fun is all about, is to basically have that query, the data broker kind of tell us which SQL server this is, assuming it has permissions and all that. And based on that version, we could select. But for the time being, we'll just pick up one of them. 100, I think, is fine. Because we're not actually using the library to hit a server. We're just validating a SQL statement. But yeah, Gregory's right.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have what you need. I
Yeah,
think.
I think so. Okay, we can maybe I'll maybe make some groundwork and then tomorrow we can sync up again and maybe we can have a live stream tomorrow and work together.
Right. So can I ask you a question? Is the data service and data broker done? If not, that could be the next one this team will take care of.
I mean, this changes things, so I would need to kind of reshuffle things and make separate PRs, and then yeah, I'll let you know.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Mhm.
Okay, then Kailu and Omar, since we took this session to talk about SQL, I guess Monday. Kailu, are you working with us Monday? Are you gonna do something with us Monday?
Sure.
Okay, so Monday night, because it's a holiday here in the US, so I didn't know if everyone's gonna be. I mean, Omar, you're in Canada, right? I
It's a
think
holiday in Canada, but
it's also a
I
holiday in
think
Canada. You'll
I'll
be
join.
around. Okay.
I don't consider this work.
Okay.
I
It's
just,
not.
yeah,
It's really supposed to be just a hangout.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I've seen all kinds of people kind of hang out watching movies or playing video games and all that kind of stuff. We're hanging out and actually making something useful. You know, people are actually going to use this. And by the way, just FYI, there's this friend of mine. His name is David. He's Italian. His name is David Guida, something like that. And let me just show you. He published something today, and I laughed a little, but I think it's good. I think having multiple. Let's see here, David. Uh, what's your name, David? David. Not this one though. Um, let's see. I'll tell you what he said. I saw something that he posted today. I thought it was pretty cool. Azure started to offer something that will make you all kind of super surprised. Just give me a second here. I'll tell you. Give me a second. One sec. Just a second. So Azure started to kind of do a text to speech, natural language processing to SQL, right? So, s I just need to show you the um, let's see here. I saw David publishing. Yeah, there it is. There it is. So this was just published literally yesterday. Okay. So that's August 30th. Right? So revolutionizing SQL queries with Azure OpenAI and semantic kernel. So what is it doing? Let's just take a look at this diagram here. It's taking natural language and going to Azure OpenAI and hitting a database and then getting the data back. Does this sound familiar to any of you? Have you seen anything like that before? What do you think about that, Kate? Does that sound familiar?
Let's get this out soon. Become the first innovators.
And
I
cheaper.
mean, just so you guys know, this is why I put like a POC out. Like if you go to my YouTube channel, if you look for entity intelligence, the very first video, this video caught a lot of attention. It reached up to 8,000 views. I literally showed that. That's exactly what I was showing people. Why do you think I put that out there? First of all, I generate momentum around the idea, but this is me calling dips, saying here's the first idea, put that date time stamp on it, right? Here's the idea and here's what it is. And I know someone out there also took the source code and made their own video, but they at least kind of gave credit. They said, yeah, Hassan actually put that idea out there and his community is working with it and all that. But yeah, so that's why I do that. You'll see that a lot, a lot, a lot. Like the next video I'm doing is that, has any of you seen the new verify library? It basically uses
Mhm.
AI to go scan, it basically disassemble a .NET library and then scans the code and tells AI, hey, what do you think? Does this match the source code? And do you see any problems with that? There's tons of projects. I'm never going to run out of ideas. Tons and tons of ideas. No problem there. Okay. All right. So let's pick up Monday. Milan, Monday, we're going to do AI. We're going to try to finish the AI service, and then we're going to work with you for the rest of the week, whenever you're
Mhm.
available. Whenever you're available.
Okay, deal.
Cool. Omar, Kailu, questions, comments? Are you guys good? People in the chat?
Hassan, what would be cool series maybe at some point in time. Maybe you did it in the past, but
What?
actually, if we could just go and read existing famous libraries on GitHub and
Or
just
recreate
discuss,
libraries?
not recreate, like discuss designs in existing libraries that are famous, and just maybe
Sure.
like find better better designs, or criticize, or actually like some of them, right?
I mean, we're gonna rewrite mock for no reason at all. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good idea. There is a series that I'm trying to build these days. It's the standard architecture. Like we're doing right now, standard design, standard development. There's a standard architecture. How do you architect and design a system in the first place? It's very much so the same as you're doing your smaller components, but this talks more about scalability. What does it mean to scale out? What does it mean to scale up? When do you scale up? What are the solutions and ideas? Enterprise stuff. That's the boring stuff that doesn't get a lot of clicks and subscriptions.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that actually makes people. I need to put it out there because not a lot of people talk about that, and I know why they don't talk about that. I mean, the mass majority, like Uncle Bob always says, the mass majority of software engineers out there are always in an inexperienced state because you have new engineers coming in that are more than the engineers that were there. The engineers that are actually good, they get promoted to managers, so they don't write code anymore, right? And they start losing the skill set. And then the new engineers come in and they're the mass majority and they're inexperienced. So the mass majority of these engineers, they really just want to know how to use mock, how to do test-driven development, just very basic 101 computer programming, computer engineering stuff. I don't talk about that stuff anymore. I talk about that as a part of a project, but I don't talk specifically about that anymore. Right. And by the way, just so you guys know, if you're trying to teach someone a programming language like C sharp, stop with the data types, stop with just give them natural statements and tell them go translate that to a programming language. Like tell them we have an exam tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Go write that in C sharp. What does that look like? That's how you build that muscle. If you can't think in C sharp or you can't think in any programming language, then what you're writing is just unreadable. It's unmaintainable. All right, I'm tired and I have meetings. Talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.
Well,
Thank you all. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.